I mean, it's already recording and playing, but let's see here. There we go. No, I still see me.
There, now you're gone.
Now it's just dead air. Thanks.
Sweet. Welcome to the show.
I hear nothing.
Bleep, bloop.
No, keep going. I'm going to pretend to DJ to this. Oh.
By the way, we are. Yep, we're live. People are forced to see this. Good news. I don't think there's anybody out there.
What's even crazier? I'm not even going to play it. We'll save the intro for the outro.
I think I know what. Man, that no pass filter you bought is working a treat.
Yeah. You put it on the master mix and everything sounds great.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Perfectly balanced.
Like top 2 right there. I think Forrestine did a really nice one too at one point. Yeah, hi everybody. Welcome to What the Heck. That was completely impromptu, and I love it. So we have Egon and Robbie, Heck 7. We're probably going to talk about synthesizers.
So you have Egon and Robbie?
I think you said the names wrong, but that's
well, he said one twice. I'm not here, folks. Pay no attention to the man behind.
Okay, Radiator.
Hold on. I got this. I have a thing for this. Hold on.
Is that? I think Radiator entered his name wrong. It should be Robbie, if I remember right.
No, that's definitely not a thing.
All right, cool. Introduce yourself, starting with Radiator, and who are you, and what's a cool recent trick you learned?
Oh, well, hi, I'm Radiator, living out here in the Midwest in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I have a compulsory addiction to buy modules. And so I had a weird thing happen in the last week since I was here last week.
Did you sell a module? Oh, no, I don't. That's blurry.
Cassette tapes? Are we looking at blank cassette tapes?
Ooh.
High bias, too. Look at that.
So these are Maxell XL2 made in Japan. So these were made in like 89 to 91 or something. Yeah, so I may have wound up with a Porta Studio 414 Mark II, and I have a thing. I have found a fountain of Porta Studio 414s. That literally in the last week, I bet you 7 have sold between 150 for some that are kind of beat up but functional to 300 for pretty much pristine new in the box.
Okay.
So those Tascams are great.
I'm keeping that a secret until I've collected a 424 Mark III, and then I'll let the cat out of the bag because it's pretty amazing. So cool. Yeah, I got it yesterday and just had so much fun. I ran the Syntac through it. And just turned everything to 11, and boy, I feel like somebody should actually make a module for distortion that's just the Tascam like front end.
Is that what you're using it for? You're just driving those preamps at the top and just cranking it?
That's what I did, yeah. So turn the preamps like up to mic level, and then through the faders, all the way up, and then turn the volume on the Syntax all the way up. So I mean, it was going hard. All the lights were red, but man, it sounded really good.
That's so good. That's so good. Yeah, that's. I also acquired something tape related, but I'm going to save that until I've bothered with bringing it upstairs.
Is it Teddy Ruxpin?
I met with a cool Colorado Modular Society person. And Ether Diver or Driver. It's Diver. Ether Diver. And he hooked me up with a TRS-80 personal computer, which is great. Not pictured here. It will be here soon. And a cassette. I don't know what you call it, tape player. It's like a nicer word than that.
A cassette deck.
A cassette deck, but like like a big one that I plan to cut apart and do naughty things with. So I'm excited about that.
That's awesome. So it's not Teddy Ruxpin.
No,
We can dream. We can dream.
no. Let's see. Did I learn anything cool?
No.
I learned how to save stuff on the Metron. That's a
Ooh.
cool trick.
Oh, that counts.
I've saved my first track on the Metron ever today.
Yeah. But it's so fast. Can't you recreate stuff really quickly anyways, even if you didn't save it?
It's pretty fast. I think the harder things to recreate are like more melodic stuff. Like if you're using the Volterra to like.
Volterra.
I mean, I didn't like do it note by note on the intro that you didn't hear. But it's sometimes I don't know. It's fast enough that I haven't bothered learning to save until today. It's really fun to play with. Yeah. What about you, Egon?
So I recently got a new module called Deckard's Voice.
Oh my
And
god.
it's kind of, the thing about modular is, right, you get a bunch of discrete little things that each do one thing. But at what level of granularity do you want it? So most of my modules tend to be like one thing. Like I have a module that's an oscillator, and then I have a module that's a bit crusher, and then I have a module that's a filter, and then I have a module that's a VCA. But in Deckard's Voice, it's an all-in-one thing. So you've got a couple different waveforms and a noise, and you've got a filter, and you've got a VCA, and you've got an LFO that you can route to the filter or the VCA or the LFO.
I mean, it's a monosynth, right? Like it's a
Yeah, it's a
full-on
whole voice.
monosynth.
That's exactly what it is. So, and I don't really have a lot of, I hadn't really like dug into that kind of extreme monosynth sort of territory. So what I did, at first I realized it was kind of dumb, but then I kind of realized it was really cool. It has a VCA built in, but I went ahead and put it through a VCA anyways, because that's what they do. And so what I ended up with is one VCA controlled the overall decay of a note. So a note hits, ba, right, rings out like a normal note. But then the other VCA you put in like something like an LFO or something. So now you have that nice decaying note, but you have the other VCA going kind of rapidly turning on and off. So you end up with bop, 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 bop.
Yeah.
Like so, you can make the $6 Million Man sound. They're like,
No. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly. I mean, you could do it with delays and stuff too, but with the VCA is even more fun because you have a little more control over it, especially if you're, I don't know, if you're using two ADSRs by chance, the second ADSR can be a looping one, which.
That's basically what I had. I just had an LFO. I had my Oct, but it was awesome, and it was two LFOs or two VCAs, and it was really fun. I know that guy.
Hey,
It was good, guys. How's it going?
good. How are you?
It's going good.
Sorry, I'm late.
How's the arm?
It's
Yeah.
good. It's moving. I got about like 80% of movement back. Baby
Hey, that
steps.
counts. Way to go.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you. How's it going, Radiator?
good. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's good to make your acquaintance. What's up, Peck? How's it going?
What's up? I finally got your package today.
Oh, good.
It was lost.
You got.
It was,
Oh, no.
It was lost, but like in the post office somewhere lost. So it was they were like, just give me your phone number. We'll call you when we find it.
It was really small. I'm good with it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I try to keep the packages small. It's good you
Yeah.
finally got it.
No, it was so funny because she was like, this is like the 10th time this week. We've got to get Linda some new glasses.
It's funny. Oh, gosh.
I love our post office workers here, by the way. They're like my favorite people. Yeah, so we're just doing intros. Who are you and what's a recent trick you learned, Benjamin?
Me, recent trick, probably maybe LFOs to panning with slight EQ simultaneously to create movement and sort of proximity. So just doing like stereo effects.
Playing a lot with stereo. Like, Okay, so LFO on
Modu-
panning, right?
modulate, and also on EQ simultaneously. So
Same
you just
LFO or
change the
different LFO?
same LFO. Yeah,
Okay,
just making it
okay.
share it. Yeah, sort of brings it closer and further away. Just getting into proximity.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I've been playing a little bit with that. I mean, the Icary was my like first stereo anything, and once I got to stereo panning, it's been on like stereo panning duty like the entire time since I did that. It's just the funnest sounds. EQ though, I haven't played with. I'd like to play more with that. I mean, beyond like low pass and high pass filters.
You
Well,
have
it's
to be
just-
subtle. Got to be subtle with it. It gets out of hand quick.
Yeah, I mean,
It's easy to go too hard.
it's just a filter with a static cutoff, right? So you could make your own EQ by using a bunch of filters and not setting the cutoff where they belong and never modulating it, I guess.
Right. Like sort of
Right.
narrow bandpass filters if I yeah.
But don't do that. So wait.
One of the things that always bothers me, and even regular filters, like when I try to play with that stuff, you end up getting these positions where you feel like the signal is like sucking on one eardrum and pushing on the other, like where the difference is so great between the two. So I've not had a ton of luck messing with that stuff, and it should be right up my alley because that's like a great way to add texture.
It's kind of like, I know what you mean. It's that same feeling when you roll down one window in the car, but not two. I know exactly what you mean.
I get that feeling also when people like crank on like compression. Like if they go like a little overkill with drum compression, it just like something is just wrong with the sound that hurts me. Like the similar like pressure thing.
Yeah, people really like that compression on the drum, the kick drum, and I mean I like a little bit of that, but if you do, sometimes people go like so extreme with it that it's like I don't know, but it's not my personal preference. I'll be honest.
Yeah. Now sidechain on the other hand, you can go as hard as you want on the sidechain, and I'm okay with that. But, sometimes people go, no, it's a stereo, and I feel like I'm on a roller coaster. Yeah, that's me. I'm sorry. Especially with the Oct is like my new favorite LFO because it's just always on doing its thing, and I don't need to mess with anything.
And it's 4 HP, and you've got 8 LFOs. It's like it's going to be used. One of those speeds is at least one is going to be useful all the time.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like I actually kind of want to get a third. What's the name? I can never remember any of the noise engineering names. Sync DeFaro. It's a quad attenuator. I want to get one of those just to stick next to the Oct.
Is that the one that has a inverted output? I'm confused.
I think that's the Lapsus Os.
No, this one's got 4 attenuators and essentially acts as a quad mult if you only plug in one thing. Everything's normal. Yeah.
Does it have faders? I forget.
That's
No.
the Lapsus Os.
That's the
No.
Lapsus Os. Okay.
No, the Lapsus Os is also on my list of things to play with, but not right now.
Fun fact is it's the hottest module in my case.
The
Because
Oct?
it's over the power supply.
Yeah, like no, I was so I have these Pittsburgh structures, and I noticed they were getting really warm. And for other reasons in my life, I had access to a thermal camera for a while, so I took a picture of my case, and like Lapsus Os was just like en fuego. I drilled a bunch of holes in the cases and tried to do active cooling. It actually didn't make much of a difference. So
Wow. Yeah, mine are definitely the Javelin ADSRs. Like, just by feeling it from my hand from behind, like I don't have to touch it. You can just feel it radiating heat. I don't know why they're so hot because it's like an ADSR and a VCA, and I don't know, but it does. It puts off a lot of heat. Yeah. I guess we could talk about Super Boost stuff a little bit. I'm a little super burnt out on Boost. but occasionally I've been watching some videos, and like the most exciting thing that I've seen all week to me was actually just a little mono synth, which I didn't think I would say, because they're like kind of boring at a certain point when you've got like Eurorack and Cosmo and whatever. But the OSTILH, that I think I shared it in chat because I got really excited about it in a few discords. That thing is gnarly. Like the filter alone, it's quad voice, can be paraphonic, has a really gnarly filter. Anyway, look that one up. That one's cool.
Sweet.
Yeah. But everything else, I don't know. Is anyone going to get an East Beast?
I don't think so.
Honestly, probably.
I mean, I assumed you would, because you collect all sorts of cool modules. That's the only reason. I was also really hoping you would, because I want to see what the inside of that little case looks like.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I don't know. There was one demo by, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing this wrong because it's German, but in American it's pronounced Bone Dew on YouTube. Like I said, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that and would love to be corrected. But I don't know, he had a very like surprisingly acidy demonstration as far as it had the squelch, and I really like the fact that they put snappy envelopes in it.
Yeah.
And it's a full voice for less than a lot of oscillators.
Yeah. That's true. And I like some of these full voice modules. Like that's relatively small for full voice. And there's a few I realize I have myself, like the BIA and the Manus Eteritas are like, they're full voices. Like you only need a gate and like that's it.
Pitch, yeah.
Yeah, like it does the trick. So also the East Beast has this weird little idiosyncratic. Yeah, idiosyncratic sequencer that I think could be pretty fun as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like it feels like a normal sequencer until you want to change something that you did, and then it becomes really weird. But that's like Happy Accident City, right? Like all kinds of weird. You kind of just got to roll with it. It's not a bug; it's a feature, and that's kind of the fun of it.
Yes, for sure. I was looking at it maybe as a buddy for the soft pop that I won't sell ever. But
it's kind of the opposite. It's kind of like the mirror, the dual of the soft pop, because the soft pop makes all kinds of weird, over the top noises. East Beast sounds like very normal.
Yeah, bread and butter
for large values of normal.
Right.
So it's your Mel Gibson to Danny Glover.
Oh, what a great way to sum it up. Yeah, it's the Jane Curtin to anybody else who played opposite Jane Curtin.
These references are lost on me.
So she was an old SNL.
And mine was Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
I got yours.
Oh, okay.
All right. Is anybody you wrote studio hacks last week, Radiator, and I don't think we talked about a single studio hack last week. So what were you thinking? Because you've been doing a lot of studio work. What, like, are you going to talk about some hacks that you've done that you like?
Well, like things I've learned that, especially when working in small spaces, like density is important. But you can also go to the point where density makes it non-functional. And, first of all, I'm going to acknowledge that I'm very lucky that I have a room that's available to me that's oddly shaped. For instance, you'll notice this wall behind me it's actually like at a 45-degree angle in the corner. This was the nursery for our kids for a long time. Then everybody was like, that room's too small to do anything with it. And I was like, I'll take it. And it's like 10.5 by 11 on the long wall and 10.5. This wall's 8 foot. So as I've gone through things, this room has been everything from an electronics like workbench set up with like a bunch of test equipment and lots of room to do projects, and then since started taking over, and now my entire workbench is on like an IKEA desk that's only like 27 inches wide. So I guess starting around the IKEA bend is and I can't. This is the problem. By the way, I'm the king of killing IKEA products. So in other words, when I find a product that I love, they discontinue it. Going all the way back to when I was buying Besta media shelves for like DVDs. If people remember when we used to buy DVDs before streaming, I went to go buy one more. They canceled them. You can't really see it in the camera, but in the office here, originally, in order to create space, I wanted more vertical shelving, right? Because when you have a room, sure, you can have a desktop, but vertical is a space that you have an opportunity to make use of. No matter where you are, there's always more room above you.
Well, I mean, maybe not in California. I realize now that I've talked to a few people about that, but at least not without some proper mounting.
Well,
you're talking about earthquakes or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. But IKEA used to make this shelving called Algot, ALGOT, and they were just these vertical strips that you mount to a wall, and then they had a million different shelving options for.
Yep.
So, because you should never mount anything holding anything precious straight to drywall, I actually lagged a bunch of 1x4s on the wall, which kind of major construction-ish, but it created a good foundation to mount these vertical mounting posts. And for the longest time, I had all of these options to move shelves up and down. They could hold a lot of weight. In fact, if I zoom out, I don't know. That's the wrong way. If you guys look, this is an example of one of those shelves. This white strip here, the lights are under. And so up there, we've got the other, like the shared system and some of the semi-modulars, and then a random case of IntelliGel. But I can move that up. I can move it down. I can get shelves that are narrower. I can get them that are longer. And IKEA doesn't make the Algot anymore. They have a replacement for this now, but I can't remember what it's called. But that was like kind of my first unlock as far as being able to have good configuration to move stuff around. As time went on, in my particular case, and I don't have anything within camera view for this, I really got into rack mount stuff. And I don't just mean like rack mount scents or whatnot, but I realized racks are another good way to drive density. And then granted, maybe not as much for modular, but if you have a bunch of desktop scents and you want them easily accessible, you can get all of these computer racks, depending on where you live. Sometimes you can get them for free. But what I ended up doing is I found this company called Raising Electronics. American company based out of California, but all their stuff's made in China. They make affordable racking systems. So the base of this desk, and I don't know if you see this. So under...
Oh, wow. Look at the smooth action on those drawers. Oh, my God.
So you have these drawers, and so what's cool about this platform desk is these are just 15U racks. The depth is adjustable from like 16 inches out to 31 inches. I adjusted it appropriately. I built, like I cut this custom piece of Baltic birch plywood. And I don't have a way to cut anything this big. Like this was an 8-foot sheet. So they did the primary cuts, and then I very nervously used a jigsaw to cut out the space for the control case. But using these racks and finding these shelves, these shelves were also made by Raising Electronics. So like these racks were like, I think on eBay, like $119 a piece, brand new. You can also find them used for cheaper. The shelves are a little pricey. They're $40 a piece. But anything else you find out there in terms of rack shelves are ungodly expensive. The only thing I hate about them is they're 1U thick. Technically, you can turn them upside down, but the edges are sharp. And the understanding why is these are made to go into a rack in a data center that you're going to be putting a tool bag on or a laptop, or so they're meant to be sturdy. Plus, you may have it mounted super deep. But as far as like another way to get good space, like so you have the Electron boxes here, and they're at a good height to actually use while you're performing or playing around or whatever. So the rack thing for me, again, it doesn't just have to be the tall 42U racks, which I have several of those that I've, to the left of me here, I've got like a Prophet 12 and a Hydrasynth and a Performer and a Peak all rack mounted, right? So like, that's great. But this is another good way to build a custom space and get more utility out of the the space that you've got. Another problem that you run into is, so a lot like let's take these are all the three make noise little guys. They don't have power switches, and I'm not one of those people that believe that pulling an electric cord is a power switch. I don't believe that you should leave things running 24/7. So the way I got around this is I spent a lot of time looking for, like, how do you find power strips that you can control? And as it turns out, we live in an age where there's this thing called the Internet of Things.
No.
So
Okay.
yeah, like I can't do it anymore because the home automation server that I built is offline at the moment. But I used to be able to say, like, hey, voice assistant, turn on Zero Coast, and it would do it. The power strips I found are made by TP-Link, and they come in 6 and 3 port things. They're invaluable when you put stuff in a rack and you can't get to the power supply, the power switches.
Future.
That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny, using voice activation to turn on an analog synth. There's
mine is
hilarious about that.
The exact opposite. Like I've got like a long power strip inside of that base there that I literally like reach around behind it because it's bolted on there, and like try to finagle over, flap my hand around until I can find the power switch, and that's the first part of the power up. And there's another one sort of sticking out there because there's too many things in it that I power around there. And then I've got another one that I'm really proud about. It's just sitting here under this. That's really nice because then I can just like put something here and plug it in and then like turn it on. I don't know. Power strips are hard anyway.
They really
Radiator,
are.
I will say one thing that I agree with you on is the how cool it is when everything has a home and has a place, like with the rack. Now I don't have, I have probably I have a lot less stuff than you do, just even in frame right now. And I mean, party at your house because there's a lot of cool stuff that I want to play with in the background. But I get it. You want everything racked. I'm like a big fan of. I only have a 9U case, and I have my mixer and my sequencer and all my effects in the case as well. And I mean, it's a little bit different than exactly what you described, but in a lot of ways, it's the same thing. It's everything has a home, everything's racked, everything's in there, and it's really cool to just have a home and not have it kind of floating.
And honestly, like, my wife jokes with me that keeping this room, which I'm actually in the process of going through the 5th major reconfiguration, because every time I think I'm out of space, I get creative. And so the most recent, well, again, you can't see it. There's a closet behind me that we took the door off of, and I found out that the racks that I'm using are exactly 1/2 inch narrower than the width of that closet. So I can stick 2 in the closet on the wings, just enough room to walk in, turn to my left and turn to my right to manipulate stuff. And that's the thing, is like, just, and it's, for me, it's all ergonomic. It's not about just dumping stuff. Like, it's all positioned in a way that I could still comfortably use it. And now, keep in mind, we talked last week, I'm not a keyboard player. I mean, again, I have one because you're supposed to, but I'm not a keyboard player. So I'll sequence something and then walk over to a rack where that synth is, that's across the room, and I'll do the sound design portion of it while the sequence is playing. And I just keeping your eye out. And once you understand some of the storage stuff, like, you realize, like, well, what are wall-mounted shelves? And you can start looking at other places than IKEA. But IKEA has been very, 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 very good to me for the majority of my synth storage needs. They have another thing called the Elvarli. There are 2 versions of this. There's one that mounts to the ceiling, or there's one that comes in a frame that you can build. What's cool about it, though, is they sell shoe shelves, which are at like a 40-degree angle. And so if you have smaller keyboards, like oh my gosh, a Base Station 2 or an SH-101 or even the Sub 37 and a Pro 2 fit on it. Like, it's 33 inches wide. It's a great way to stack keyboards up for way less than importing a Jasper stand. Maybe not the most ergonomic to actually play all of them, but it's very functional as far as, storing and making it easy to keep cabling out of it.
Mine's like the jankiest. This thing, I'm really proud of, but it's just a shelf, like, just a shelf on studs, right? A piece of very thin plywood that I did a light frame around so it doesn't flex too much. And then I put some rails on it, and it holds things like pretty good. Like the Korg is like pretty much vertical, which I love, but it's not going to go anywhere. Like it just wants to go back. I'm a little more worried about the mixer. Like I feel like I need to attach that better because I tend to walk around with headphones, and like if I'm not careful I could face plant that like down. But that's how I ended up doing some storage and hiding an extension cord. So
Heck, let me ask you a personal question. I know you've had that big, heavy, old school CRT silly scope for a long time, but now I'm seeing what looks like a television screen that has a silly scope on it. What is that?
yeah, that's new. Because I've been asking about a CRT, particularly small CRTs, for a while, and I finally got this bad mamma jamma, the Magnavox TV / VCR.
How is he getting the signal?
That's a good question. So yeah, this oscilloscope isn't
No idea.
He'll let us know when he figures it out.
No, this is just the video synth from Critter and Guitari, so I can like change the.
Oh, okay, cool.
So, like some of them are percussive, so as I do more transients, you'll see it change.
Yeah, we can't really
Oh
really see that.
let's see. Well, yeah. Anyway, I've been wanting
That's
something
awesome.
like that for a long time, and I like it. I just it's only temporarily there because my MS-10 is at the synth doctor to be fixed.
Okay.
Yeah, but it'll show up at some point in an actual video with some actual music. I should have just cut to a video of that while y'all were doing the intro for some visualization. Anyway, yeah, so that's what that is. It's nothing special. It's just a TV, and the VCR does work. I don't think the speakers work, but whatever. And it comes with a car adapter, so if I want to put it in a car and that has a cigarette thingy, it will, I guess, work.
I mean, I can't wait. So I mean, that means it'll run off a 12-volt source.
Mm-hmm.
So get your big old USB battery bank in one of the power the PD cables, and you can throw that thing and a little micro case someday that you're going to wind up building and climb. I don't know.
You just gave me an idea, right?
Like, go climb
right?
Mount Herman or something. I got a buddy that lives out that way that climbs that all the time. You can take your synth up there and your CRT and do your Dawes jam and you're good.
That's not really my style, but I will make a car Cosmo module because it's 12-volt, right? Like I can just make like the push-in, like get that adapter, plug this right into the TV, and it's powered by Cosmo. Boom.
I have a 3U 104 HP case that doesn't have a power supply, so I got the Polyend Anywhere USB power supply that just takes the USB-B Type B plug, and I plugged in just a regular battery pack I have for charging my cell phone. And I was patching in the car while we were just driving around, and it was kind of awesome. It was kind of really cool to experience. Like I drove somewhere, and my wife went in, and I stayed in the car and played with my synthesizer for a little while. It was awesome. I highly recommend it.
That's super rad. I might try that at some point with like the OPZ or something because the hikes I go on are non-trivial, but it might be nice during a lunch break to break it out, play, and listen on the little crappy speaker, which I actually do love the crappy speakers that are on some little mini synths. It's totally fine. Like I don't want to call this one crappy because it's beautiful, but the Winter Bloom Speak to Me module is incredible, and I don't know if it's a piezo or like an actual like nice little speaker. So if it is a speaker, it's probably way better than my crappy piezo speakers that I use on some things.
Yeah, it has a lot of character.
Yeah, but I mean like like, okay, if you're doing sound design, you're gonna plug in headphones and do all the things, but you're just jamming. Like, the circuit speaker was great for that. It's fun.
Yep.
No problems with that.
See,
Benjamin, you're making me nervous because you're quiet. What's that?
I was-
man.
Oh, just listening, trying to chill out. Yeah. It's late for me.
Oh
on the
yeah,
East Coast,
that's
so.
true. That's true. I'm sorry. I think after this week, soonish, I'll be going back to the weekend because I'll have time again.
Whatever works.
Yeah.
So I think the last piece of advice I would offer is everybody looks at this stuff differently as far as what their needs are. And I think the most important part is actually being honest with yourself about your goals. So in my particular case, like I started off like a lot of people, right? Like everything had a place, and if you wanted to play with it, you were dragging it out onto a desk or a kitchen table. When you were done, you put it away. And for me, recognizing a couple of things that, I'm not joking when I say that this room is my midlife crisis. I think last week we said it'd be cheaper if I had a drug habit than being in a modular.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a couple of friends that they have a decent collection of, say, desktop synths, and they built their thing where their shelving it's like a library. It's like things have a hole. What they did is when they built up their space that they can play in, they invested so that all of the power and all of the cabling, the MIDI and your audio cables are already all plumbed. Because the one thing that, if you do this for a while, people are like, man, I don't want to, spend time hooking up because by the time I get everything hooked up, I've lost the vibe or whatever. And so they were smart about that, realizing, hey, I'm going to have a library of things off to the side that are stored down to the way, but I want it to be quick when I get on a desk, versus the other end of the extreme, which in here is, I have a network of Motu audio interfaces. Every rack and setup has a Mio XL network MIDI interface. Everything in here is turn it on and go, because that's ultimately what I wanted. And, I built for that. But that's what I'm saying, like being honest with yourself and thinking about what are some of those quality of life things you can do. Like if you are just going to have a small space you're going to play in occasionally, like what can you do to make sure that the cabling is already all set up and ready to go to just minimize that downtime for when you decide to go. Or you go crazy like this. And of course, we've all seen studios that are way, way, way better appointed, if you will, with the furniture and whatnot. But and then, like I said, I ended up finding out that how much stuff can I cram in a space ended up becoming a hobby unto itself.
I've been I have something to add on to that. It's kind of related. I only have the 9U case. That's like my primary thing. 104 HP 9U, and it was a lot denser before. I had a lot more stuff, a lot more modules. But then I got this new module called Deckard's Voice, and it's pretty big. It's like 40 HP or something. So I had to make a lot of hard decisions about what to pull out because I was already at capacity. So I ended up pulling out a lot of different modules. And the end result is that I have a case, and I've only been having this case as it is now for like maybe a week or two. But I noticed that I enjoy it more because I'm focused more on making cool sounds and less on making more sounds. And that's kind of like been like an epiphany. It's so obvious. Like obviously you want to make cool sounds, not a bunch of crappy sounds. but like it's easy to get caught up in like, oh, I want this thing to make this, and then this other thing to make this sound, and then this one. It's like, no, just find a module that you really like the sound of and kind of build around that. And to that end, I'd like to kind of segue into the other epiphany that I've recently had. And I think I may have shared it with Heck before, but there's obviously you can make any sound with anything if you have sufficient modularity, right? You can do anything. You can make any sound conceivable. But certain modules lend themselves to more of a kind of a vintage computery sound. And some modules kind of lend themselves to more of a vintage synthesizer sound, right? One sounds like a computer processing in 1980, and one sounds like a SID chip, and the other one sounds like a vintage synth from the mid 70s. And there's no right or wrong answer here. It's a matter of personal taste, what direction you want to go, and how far you want to go in that direction. but I've recently come to the realization that I don't want to go in the computer direction. I don't want a Yamaha Sound Blaster chip. I don't want a SID chip. I don't want a Game Boy sound chip on my modular. I do want Deckard's voice, which is like an old, I can't remember who they copied, but it has that old
CS80.
There it is. Thank you. That's that's definitely a different direction than a Commodore 64. Like they're not going to sound the same unless you do a lot of work. So I guess the question is, what do you guys think? What direction are you going in? Have you ever thought of it in those terms?
I think you're going to end up with both the SID chips and the analog-rich old school stuff.
You're probably right, because when you listen to like a SID Guts module, it sounds dope. You hear those wild timbres that come out of it, and you're just like, I want all of this.
It just takes one demo where someone uses it in a way that you might use it, and you go, oh, I gotta buy that now. Like, that's all it takes. Like that synthesizer I was talking about earlier, like this quiet, sort of mild-mannered spokesperson is like talking about this thing he built. And he's like 15 minutes into the video or 10 minutes in or something, right? Like just talking about what its capabilities are. He's like, oh, I guess I can show you what it sounds like. Blah, blah. Like flicks the thing on and I'm just like, whoa. Oh, you made a nice thing. And like, I don't know, like I've come to some similar realizations as you, Robbie, but I feel like Benjamin's actually the rightest one. Anyway, so like I like the sound of vintage analog oscillators because they're unstable. Like they detune themselves so I don't have to, right? Like that's a feature for me. Like you can get some gnarly stuff. Like if one of them stays a little more in tune than the other one, wonderful. But I'd sort of written off FM like altogether because like any experimenting I've done with FM, like I either end up with like a one-time use really cool sound, so like angry robot sub scream or something, right? Like some crazy sound, and I make a little track out of that, and that's great fun. But I can never get back to that thing again. And that's sort of why I'd written it off a little bit. And bell sounds are cool too. I've used them. I think I used them on like the Carol of the Bells riff. I did, but obviously. But Benjamin, the thingy you just sent me has changed my mind a little bit. It can be pretty fun to have some FM, especially digital FM.
It is really nice, especially through zero digital. It's pretty unique.
Yeah, so the through zero, the Godspeed oscillator, which I'm very happy with right now. So I don't know. So I think my opinions will just evolve and change over time because, like, yeah, sometimes I want to do chip tuning things, sometimes I don't. But yeah, I don't know.
I hate to sound like a shill for Make Noise, but the DPO is excellent if you want analog FM and a folder, all on board. With a what do they have? Sync. It has like a sync mode, so you can sync them as well with a push button.
Does it have a hard sync and a soft sync?
I have no idea, Robbie. I think it's just a sync. I have no idea if it's hard or soft.
Probably just hard sync.
Maybe medium sync.
What's like? Yeah, what's the difference between a hard and a soft sync? And is there like other types of syncs beyond those two?
Maybe soft sync just has like harmonics, and hard sync is a little bit stronger of a pitch. Like it follows the pitch identically.
I can do it, but I run a high probability of being wrong. But I'll do my best. One of them is I think hard sync is when a trigger arrives when the voltage goes high in hard sync, it instantly restarts the waveform, so it instantly drops to zero, and the waveform instantly begins again. And soft sync is something else.
You're 100% right. That's right. Soft sync is something else.
Is soft sync where it's so like on my oscilloscope, it does a pretty good job of sort of determining the frequent, like it shows me the frequency in a single spot. Like it does the thing where it chops it at just the right spot most of the time. And I feel like that's probably closer to soft sync than hard sync, because hard sync, I almost wonder, like if you've got a complex waveform that actually has multiple peaks, I wonder if it's syncing on each one of those peaks.
So according to Chris at Learning Modular,
Love that guy.
yes. So you're right about hard sync. Basically, is that it's causing the following wave to reset, which basically ends up in a tear. And then
full reset of the waveform.
And then soft sync, they only reset when they're kind of close to having the same period. So the following waveform finishes its cycle more than it would in hard sync.
Yeah, there's something about soft sync, like reversing the direction or something like that. I don't.
All I know is I prefer hard sync to soft sync.
I'm not good at modular. Come on.
I don't like hard sync at all. Because I hardly ever use it.
It can create some really interesting timbres, man, because then you have one oscillator that it's almost like pulse width modulation is how we perceive it, but you can do it with any waveform, and you use one oscillator to control the pulse width. It's really cool.
Yeah. So that I guess my synth goals have never been like, I want to be a famous musician. I just wanted to make sounds that make me go, oh, get that stupid grin on my face, I don't know, and that's it. And I just have fun doing it. Streaming and everything else is a byproduct.
Same thing, man. There's no margin in Eurorack, that's for sure. And
I don't have complex needs. Like every time I hit this, ooh, let's drop you down an octave. Well, every time I hit a good bass note on that synthesizer, it's the reason all my songs sound the same, right? Because I just get happy instantly. I feel it. I get my stupid face on. And I was doing that earlier. I had actually that I have a fold out little stand that I brought sort of over here next to this chair, and laid it down and sat down, and it was in pieces. The reason was I'm still waiting on some modules that are Signal Sounds is the worst. Don't ever buy anything from Signal Sounds. I'm just kidding. I think UPS lost that package.
I was going to say, I actually get modules from them faster than I do most US sellers.
Yeah, I think if everything had gone swimmingly, I ordered on a Friday, and then I got the shipping notification that it was going to be here on Monday, which I think if they hadn't lost it at some point, or customs hasn't made their own little Eurorack, it would have been there on Monday. So I Signal Sounds absolutely crushed it. But I had everything loose, because it's really the thing that I've struggled the most with Eurorack, other than the small size, is sort of lining up the modules. If you ever, if you put that first one in just a little bit crooked, then further down the line, it just drives me crazy.
That sounds like a man that's using threaded strips.
No.
Then I don't understand how you have a problem if you're using just loose nuts.
I'm using loose nuts. I think the problem is that everything I build is out of warped plywood.
That's probably your issue.
But when I get that first one in at 90, everything else is good. But I had the whole top row redone, so I was sort of waiting for those last few modules to tighten everything up, because it's a pain. Don't have that problem with Cosmo, because everything's too big to worry about. I have to get 6 modules straight, right? It's not that bad.
You drill it straight into the wood, right?
Yeah.
There's no. That's funny.
Yes. Yeah. It's just a screw into wood. Wooden rails, my friend, are the future.
What you can do? There's a trick you can do, Heck. You can put the smaller modules out to the edges and then keep the wider ones in the middle. That should minimize the differences.
Yeah, I found doing the bigger ones first are sort of the key even, because after I get those sort of lined up, like it's easier to see if those are off just by like eyeballing it than anything else. But the first time I noted that, it was it's like halfway through one of those rails, and I was like, "Dang it! Unscrew." I got I got knurl finger or whatever you call it when your fingers start hurting from too many knurlies.
Knurly thumb.
Knurl thumb. Yeah, but I mean, I
got the
enjoying
knurls.
the crap out of it.
Am I the only one that hates knurlies?
Yes.
I don't have or use knurlies. I just use a screwdriver. Actually, one module I have came with like 4 knurlies for some reason, and I have used them because I needed to use the screws, but they have a cross cut into them, so I just use a screwdriver on them. I don't use my hand.
Yeah. Same.
So I'm just not into it.
So another hack that for me, so these Pittsburgh cases use American 440 hardware, so it's not M2 or M3, so no normal Eurax screws work. And I caught drift, like I needed more screws, and like some people will replace the sliding nuts with M2.5 or whatever. I didn't want to do that. And somebody on Modwiggler had posted that what they did is they found these really nice screws off of McMaster Carve that were hex head caps. And the game-changing thing about that is when you have a quality hex screwdriver that's not in focus. There we go. This is a Weha. I mean, it's kind of expensive for what it is. It's like $6. But what's nice is that I can put a screw on it and it generally doesn't fall off. Like the tool is meant to get some free. Oh, you have Wera? Man. Anyway, so okay, there's a man that appreciates a quality tool. But yeah, like it's nice to put the screw on there,
quality tool,
and then not have to like do the whole thing. Like you can get in there, and so for me that was life changing. The reason I don't like the knurlies is it's just one more thing to get in the way. Especially like when I started out, I had a single rack root, and of course, what did I do? I bought every micro mutable module to try to make my money go further, and it's like I'm only ever going to have these whatever 88 times 2 HP. That's all I'm ever going to have. And then you realize after a while that can be hard. But the knurlies made it worse because they're not much smaller than the little trimmer pots.
I think they're actually significantly larger in diameter than the new Teenage Engineering mixer potentiometer encoders. No joke. But
that thing is so small.
I haven't had a problem with the knurlies yet because like I can flip things around pretty quick, and I do use a screwdriver a little bit on the edges. At some point when things stabilize, because I think, I don't know if you experienced this, but when you first get like a Eurorack case and like you start filling it out, you're moving it a lot more, and eventually things start stabilizing as you get sort of your go-to stuff. And when I do that, I'll probably go to the hex head just to the sole purpose of being able to insert that screw in. And get it not on the first try versus like right now my big dumb fingers and there's like a plywood edge. I got to sort of get under there because it's warped. Anyway,
Sure.
Sucks.
I'll try to play devil's advocate. I'll make a case for the knurlies. They keep the screwdriver tip away from the case, so it's less possible damage than a conventional screw. The other case I'll try to make for it is a magnetized tip, so that can keep the screw head. You know, there are ways to sort of get the best of both worlds with knurlies, but you know, I definitely think the screwdriver is easier with knurlies than going in by hand.
Yes,
you know?
and that's why I use this.
Pre-patched. Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Yeah. And
I
also
want to be clear, I'm not
knurlies.
I'm not trying to dissuade anybody, right? There's enough choices for everyone. Just saying why I don't like them, why they don't work for me. Like, if they work for you, salute. Go continue on. I'm not like starting an all-out war on knurlies.
They're good for like single row skiffs. They're really nice because then you can get your hand above it and below it.
Well, and to your point, I've got a little 4MS pod it's a utility pod. So for a while it was set up that like if I was tuning oscillators, it had like my precision voltages in there and Mordex, right? So like for that, Nerlies are perfect because I'm going to be swapping things in and out of it. So I still have a
Right.
small tin of them around here somewhere.
Same.
I think there's like like to your point, there's only like 2 modules I think that I have where Nerlies are sort of in the way. Like they don't really get in the way of the cables because the way, I mean, none of my cables are short and none of them are right angle. Actually, that's not true. I just got 3 gifted right angle cables.
You're welcome.
4 from that person, and I very much
very
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Of course. Anything for you guys.
So I haven't really experimented. They're in there because I'm out of cables, but I haven't played with them too much to like get a feel for them. Anyway, my point is they're not really in the way outside of there's 2 modules, the MS-22 and the muscle,
Yeah, the
Oh, that
compressor.
VCA thing, right?
compressor. Like, where the knob is just too close to the Nerly, right? It's actually, I think, just too close to the top in general on both of those because you can sort of hit your finger on it. But
Yeah.
also the MS-22 is not mine. That is a Bartok lens. So thank you, Bartok.
Aw, that's sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, I sent him 100 grit. We swapped for a minute. Yeah. That's another fun thing I'm enjoying about Eurorack is like I can just like send people models and it's really fun and get trade things like Cosmo. Like there's like 10 other people in the North America that I can trade with, and they've already got them.
How are you liking 100 grit heck? You enjoyed it while you had it?
It was okay. I had high hopes for it, and I played a bunch of different things through it, including some like I'd put Cosmo stuff, different waveforms, all sorts of stuff, and it's an awesome module. But ultimately, I also had the Trashmaster, and I like if I'm comparing to filter/distortions, the Trashmaster is the one that I felt fit what I like to do the most. So.
What was it? Was it brighter? A little
Yeah,
bit more
it's a lot
top end?
brighter. Yeah, because it's a high pass filter. I think is the thing, and something about it is just like kind of gnarly in a good way, like very cheesy. Like everything becomes a Daft Punk lead, like
Fun.
instantly. Like that's the sort of point of the module, and I really like that. So that's why that went out. But the 100 grit I really liked, and I was actually really surprised by it because you don't quite get an idea of what it looks like or how it feels from like in use from videos as much. And in this case, it looks like there's like in most of the panels, it looks like there's like the brass bits are like half spheres or something like right on the panel, but they're actually just like full sphere brass knobs on the end of bolts that stick out a little bit from the panel. So like they stick out a lot more than they look, and they were pretty fun. Like you get that like circuit bendy feel playing around with that, where you cross them, play around with them, use some wires, and it kind of glitches out in a really nice way. So that part of it was really cool, and it's well built.
Yeah,
The
it's like
distortion. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say it's like an instrument and an effect all in one with the touch plates.
Yeah. And even the filter itself is really nice. I think the thing that I was least happy with was the actual filter, and I think if the filter was a little gnarlier, maybe a little different filter architecture, like MS-20 or 10 or any of those that have like higher resonance and like a less smooth peak, I think would play well with that distortion just a little bit better. But yeah.
I'm sorry. What were you gonna say, Robbie?
I wanted to bring up. I was going to talk about another distortion that I have is called Pura Ruina, which is a wave foldy kind of distortion, and it has 5 CV inputs, and that's why I like it, is because it has so much. It's designed around CV. It's not just a distortion pedal where you turn the knobs but it's in module form. It's not like that. It's designed for you to use a bunch of CV with it. So I wanted to ask, not being familiar with that distortion module you were just talking about, how many options for CV does it have?
100 grit specifically? Yeah,
or Trashmaster. I don't know. I don't really know them that well.
we'll talk about Trashmaster in a second. But 100 grit had CV for both the filter cutoff, I think maybe resonance, and then it also had CV for for various bits of the distortion, including
Cool.
like gain. Like it does have a lot of CV inputs on that
That's
one as
awesome.
well.
I love that.
It's a
That's the whole
solid
point.
module.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
it was like kind of redundant, I think, in the case that I'm making. So that was really the only reason it's going. It's an awesome module. Trashmaster has probably a little bit less CV. It's got I mean, the interesting thing about the Trashmaster to me is you've got a couple of routing options, but it's got frequency, CV, key, resonance. Like there's not a lot to it. Gain and tone. Like so, you've got some CV over the filter, CV over the distortion. Pretty much the basics. But what I like is if I can patch in through the filter first and then get the audio out of the distortion, or the other way around, or even just go
right.
just filter and just distortion.
Right.
So that's a pretty cool little normalization trick they pulled there. I can't remember if the 100 grit does that as well, but it might. I know the 100 grit has two outputs, one for distortion and one for filter, so you could do some mixing there as well.
Very cool. I love
Yeah.
it when distortions are designed with modular in mind, instead of just being, well, you put the input and then it distorts it and then you've got an output, and it's like, I mean, that can be cool too. But
I mean,
like,
that's all that I
the
have
whole
in my
point-
Cosmo.
yeah, but that's the whole point, is like to have some CV over stuff, and just do weird CV with it. That's what you want to do.
Yeah. I want to get a little weirder with what I got. Like, I think the Metron is cool, but I'm already planning out like what the next steps are for that case. And I think probably what's going to happen is I'm going to go for something a little more basic in terms of sequencer. Like the Evil Eye up there is just basically like an 8-step sequencer. Something like that I think might replace the Metron that has specifically controls for each step. Because while the Metron is fun, I find myself using Volterra more, and that one's a little bit annoying to like modify a specific step, that kind of thing.
So maybe like a Moskwa, or the
Moskwa, and then like
Octone or something.
Yeah, that's another one. And then there was a shoot. Hold on, just a second.
Have you ever thought about Varigate? That's a little bit different, but it can do CV or triggers, but it has faders instead of knobs.
Yeah, and I was also looking at like Voltage Block is kind of what I'm looking at, like that kind of a thing.
Oh, I love my Voltage Block. I don't think that's ever going to leave my case.
Right, and it's not in black, so I can't really consider it thoroughly, but there's a similar thing.
I got a black face panel on mine, man. That comes in black. You can get a dope. Mine looks like, not only is it black, but it's written kind of like Make Noise.
Well, then my search is over, but I was also going to mention, I want to give honorable mentions to the LADIC S280, because that is pretty much the same as what I've got up there. And I love that for sequencing CV specifically. Like, I love sequencing CV. As far as sequencing actual tracks and things like that, I think my Hapax does the trick. And another point to getting weird, like if I have a CV sequencer, there's no reason I can't use that to do like sequencing, pitch, and all that other fun stuff. So I think I'd rather, instead of being redundant with the.
Out of curiosity,
yeah.
Why not the Mux Slicer?
I haven't looked at it too closely.
I mean, it's 8 channels. You have sliders for CV, plus you can get gates off of it. A lot of clocking and clock division options. You can chain them together, and now they've added specific gate modules that can work with it. And it comes. It only comes in black.
Yeah,
it only comes in black.
It also has a bidirectional 8-to-1 or 1-to-8 sequential switch.
Yep.
With what else does it have? Ratchets. You can actually ratchet the steps on the gate outs.
And you can CV control whether or not you're ratcheting.
Mm.
Like you
Oh
need
yeah,
to,
right. You put it to 0, right?
Yep, and you need to go watch Ben's video on it because it is. I built one, and I loved it, and realized I wasn't smart enough to use it, so I sold it on. But that's the other thing too; it's available as a kit now. It's a very dense through-hole build, but I mean, I had no issues with it. I would highly recommend you take a look at it, especially now that they've added all the add-on modules and the fact you can chain them. Like it might be right up your alley.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that. That's actually really appealing now that I'm looking at it. Maybe a pair of those might be really good too. I don't know if I would chain them because I really like 8 steps. I think it's really solid.
They're onto the 4th revision of the board by now. That
Yeah.
was the most recent one. So, Jose and Manu, Epifaco, they're definitely doing the work. Nulling bugs and whatnot.
Yep. And firmware updates were regular. I had a version 3 of it. But yeah, like I actually I'm thinking about adding one back since they added the expanders to it and learning.
Yeah.
Because that's a funny thing. Just from my music journey from when I was a kid, like I remember like early Roland Yamaha sequencers that you pretty much had to play in what you were trying to do. And again, these don't. I played trumpet and guitar. Like this didn't work on keyboards. But I got into step sequencing with software early on, so like I understand my vector. That's how my brain is wired. But I really want to get back. Like I want to experiment with like some of these really simple sequencers. And for our conversation last week about just letting yourself go, not stressing out about too much of it, finding that groove. Like vector, you can find a groove, but it's also very easy to start obsessing over every little detail.
Yeah, vector is pretty cool. Yeah, the Metron just felt redundant to me because the workflow is so similar to what I'm doing with the Hapax. Like I don't understand. Like there's not really, it's not pushing me in new directions. It's super awesome, but like.
The one thing that I had one of those for a while too, and ultimately I passed it on as well. And I mean, for sequencing percussion, it was pretty cool. Wish it had a few more generative options, but whatever. The one thing I did like about it, I didn't like the interface because I wish they made an 8 HP Volterra. So I have sausage fingers, so that was a little fiddly. But I really appreciated the fact that you can have these sequences up to 128 steps, and you could precisely set the voltage on each one. So if you really wanted sequence modulation, it's a really good option as long as the finger thing is not a problem for you.
Yeah, and it is really good for that, and I found it usable. Like it's still not like I can't do like a nice big filter sweep kind of a movement with it, but I can still.
Which is frustrating because that's how you have to reset to 0. Is basically do a fast.
Well, it's a little one. It's not as big as
okay, maybe
need it. Yeah, I don't know if they finessed it or what, but I haven't had problems like remembering the actions because they were all. Once you learn it, it's okay. But I did really actually quite enjoy unintentional sequencing with it. So like when the sequence is playing, doing just like and like it. Now I have a cool lead, right? Like it's and like okay, maybe I want a little bit different gate pattern on it. Cool, like that was kind of fun.
So to pick on that a little bit. Were you primarily using it for pitch? Because when I was talking about sequencing, I'm talking about sequencing modulation. So if you want to get precise,
I primarily use Volterra for sequencing CV.
Okay.
I mean, sequencing anything other than pitch. Like I did use it for pitch, and I find it fun. And this one is sequenced with pitch on this, but I was more interested in Volterra in general, just for sequencing, like filter kind of a thing.
Nice.
Yeah, so those are great options. I'm excited to look more into the Mux Slicer. Like Moskwa is pretty cool. I think that's probably more than what I'm looking for in terms of capabilities. So,
but also you can get a black panel for it.
Yeah, but Voltage Block and Mux Slicer are probably the top 2 contenders now that I know that Voltage Block is black.
I'll send you a picture. Yeah. I'll send you a picture of my black Voltage Block. You'll fall in love right away.
I don't even care if it's cool. I mean, as long as like no one can see anything in the on the panels but me, so it's fine.
I'm gonna suggest the absolute sluttiest combo and go for a Noise Engineering Vice Verga with your analog Step 8. That way you get the bidirectional switch on the Vice Verga, and then you have the analog audio rate clockable step sequencer on the Step 8. Which Mux Slicer is it's digital, so I'm willing to bet that your analog one, which you lose bidirectionality, it will probably be better for audio rate clocking of the sequencer. Most likely,
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, well, I already have Jura Analog's Step 8 on my high on my list because you recommended it
Me too.
many weeks ago. So
And Vice Verga. Vice Verga is going to be sick. Must get one.
Wait, the Switch?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It came out last year.
Yep, I got one. I haven't used it to it. So the whole Switch thing for me, like I had been keeping it to basically 2-channel switches. Like I really like the Instro. Is it the Tane? I think it's the Tane.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And I like the fact that it has, you can an adjustable voltage that when you switch, it can, send 5 plus or minus whatever out. But yeah, I haven't. I don't think I've unlocked the full potential of Vice Verga because I just don't understand sequential switching as much. Other than I'm using it as a binary, like flip between 2 places, and the fact that it's bidirectional also blows my mind. So there's like some of those like core basic like synthesis like techniques that it's like this is the thing that sucks. Again, living in Cincinnati, like the opportunity to have a festival called Synth Cincinnati, like Moog was here for a while, but I don't have anybody in town that's into this stuff at all.
Cincinnati,
preach,
so natural.
Preach. There's nobody at this altitude with synths that I can hang out with. There is just I saw recently. I don't know if it's the DP0 or something. There's a recent DivKid video on I think it's a sequential switch or a switch that can do it at audio rate, and it does it in a way that it's got the zero crossing, like it waits till the zero crossing, so you're not getting like the extra clicks or square sort of feel. That when it's even like panning at audio rate or something like that, like it's super cool sounding. So that one is interesting to me. Or audio
you can
rate,
really
Frankenstein
waveforms together by like putting like a square wave and a ramp wave, and then going back and forth in interesting ways to kind of combine the waveforms.
Too.
Right, but the point of this one is it's doing it at the zero crossing. So right. And that's the unique bit. And I don't know if the Mux Slicer does that or not. I mean, the Mux Slicer is already I'm going to take a deep dive into that this week when I'm bored at work.
So I think, though, what I would say is in a future episode, Benjamin, you should do a masterclass on, like, some of these, like, basics, like the basic building blocks of sequencing.
Yeah, I'd love to. Right now I have the sequential switch matrix next to Mux Slicer with WMD OSD, that's the or sum difference, and Quantus Quant Jemmy, the noise engineering octave switch. So I've been trying
that.
Yeah, it's cool to have all of the adders and octavers next to matrices and sequencers. You can sort of get a hodgepodge going.
Yeah.
With CV for pitch. It's really, really East Coast, but sort of meets West Coast because it's abstract way of generating pitch.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. So the Quant Jemmy, which I've got one of, like it's for those who haven't looked at it, it's got four inputs and 4 outputs, and it's a buffered mult essentially. But if you put a single voltage source in there, I didn't even think about this until you just brought it up. You could totally I could totally see you like cycling through at least 3 octaves with just one. Like you could do a lot of like video gamey sounds with this sequential switch going through. Yeah, that's gonna be cool. I'm gonna play with that. I don't know. I'm a big fan.
That's a good closing question. I know we're over time. What are you gonna experiment with next, or what are you gonna do in your next patch? Like, what are you gonna explore?
Ooh, good question.
I guess everybody can take a turn.
Well, I installed the Endorphins Godspeed and the DivKid mutes. 30 minutes before this started, so probably those.
You know what? You know what Mutes is really good for, Heck, is for turning on and off clocks to Databender. Just getting it kind of close to it as a performance point is nice.
Yeah, actually, I'm planning to use the Fractio Solum as a way to manipulate the Databender clock a bit weirder, or things like that. But yeah, that's a really good point. I'm using it currently in this particular patch that no one has heard yet. So I can hear the difference between like the side fold output, the even odd output, and like also going through I think one of the voices I'm going through the Crow filter, so I'm playing with different filters and stuff. So it's a way for me to like A/B test things or even combo. Like it turns out the even odd and the what's the other one? The side folds sound really good together. Yeah, here. Enough talking. I can just hit like loop on the.
Let's hear it.
Oh,
Hey, we hear it.
Right.
that
This
through
is
the Crow?
currently no,
Okay.
because that's muted. But yes, I have all of these going. I can also go through these with the Crow. So if I switch to the even odd. But if I do both, it gets thick
fills
real
up the
fast.
spectrum.
It is.
Yeah,
Big bottom. Big
Yeah.
bottom.
yeah. But if I want to do the Crow,
And this is the Godspeed.
Oh,
I think Heck just sounds like Heck on anything they do.
yeah. That's so hacked right now. I love it.
yeah, this is just the Godspeed.
Oh wow, it's beautiful.
Great
Really
sound.
aggressive.
Is that with the analog second core or the digital second, the zero core?
It's through zero core.
That's just so heck right there. That's just heck 7 in a box. Oh, listen to it. Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
I love
fizzy.
it when it gets unstable and kind of clips itself out. I love that.
I have an overwhelming urge to play Doom right now.
Yeah.
Oh, it's pretty.
Anyway, I'm getting along
Spaceships.
swimmingly with this these new modules.
Thanks for the demo.
Yeah.
Pretty cool, Heck.
I mean, when in doubt, just drop it down a couple octaves and it'll sound good, right?
Drop it down a couple octaves and crank up the
Put the
resonance.
leads and I was like, nope, octave switches, boom, happy. Yeah, so I'm that's what I'm playing with next. But actually, I'm going to make a note to try. Like, there's a sequential switch thing we just talked about that I really want to try, which would be kind of funny. I probably should stream it because my sequential switch is like there, and Quant Gemme is like there.
So the maximum reach across.
Yeah.
Well, you know what else you can do with Quant Gemme, Heck, is for transposing LFOs. If you want to take an LFO up or down an octave, it actually works really good for that.
You're
Yeah.
talking about a voltage offset?
Yeah, it's nice
Yeah, I mean, it's
for
just
going
adding or subtracting 1 volt. It
Yeah.
totally does the magic that you want.
It's kind of a nice performance point. If you run the output of the octave switch into like an attenuverter, it's kind of nice to have that little control for the octave and then also your attenuverter to shape it. It's like a weird sort of stepped scaling to the pitch. It's
Right, and
It's fun.
that other noise engineering module you were talking about earlier, the attenuverter that's got the 4 sliders, that's why I was looking at that attenuverter, because I think it would be a really nice, effectively a control surface for other things. So yeah, that one.
That's the one. That's the one.
Let me know when you want to
gotta
set
rack
that
it.
one, Benj.
I don't think so. I like it a lot. Maybe. I have 2 of the ADAC macros as well. So 2 ADAC, 1 Lapsus. That's my control points of preference. They're good.
Yeah, and Yeah. What about you, Robbie? What's your next thing to try, real fast?
My next thing to try is arpeggios on Deckard's voice. I used it in kind of a pad kind of way, but I want to do like an arpeggio.
Cool. But that was last month's thing, not this month. So
I know I'm behind. I already did my nature. Nature stream. It was a slimy haunted forest with like demonic tones. If you didn't see it, it was awesome. It turned out I felt like in a lot of ways it was very atypical for me because I had kind of a drone going on too.
I don't have to worry about watching them when they happen because I actually will watch through all of them like the week before I do the highlight stuff. So.
Cool.
Radiator, what about you? What are you trying next?
Honestly, it's hard right now because I kind of made a commitment that no playing until I get this phase of rearranging done.
I think the best videos are when you're like halfway through it, like halfway through the rearrange, and there's like cables and shit everywhere, and you're like, screw it, I'm just gonna like.
Yeah, I'm just gonna turn shit on.
Yeah.
No, I mean, honestly, for me, I think it's going to be, and again, not in the rack, but continue to experiment with these Porta Studios. Because, I mean, I had one when I was in high school, and I remember I was everybody's friend because it's like, hey, man, come over and record. But I never tried to abuse them, you know? So, and like just discovering, you know, that warm analog tape sound is fun. Also, honestly, to tinker on them a little bit, to refurb them. You know, replace some capacitors.
Yeah.
The one that I have right now, like the blanking head or the erase head, isn't as powerful as it should be. What's actually cool is this one came from California and there was a tape in it. I should have actually brought it in and played the intro. It's like some band that recorded bluegrass music in California like 20 years ago. The tape was labeled "More for Me," so I think
we'd probably get a copyright strike for that for something.
Yeah, who knows? They may be super popular now, but yeah, it's that's probably the thing that's going to get time because that stuff's all set up to my wife's great happiness in the bedroom right now. So
yeah, I need to do some reverb on a couple of tape decks. Not reverb, refurbishing. One of them was my only working tape deck a few weeks ago, and I was doing a solder stream, and normally, like, when I'm not there, I'll hit play on it and walk away. And this thing, like, the motor was like...
You had it patched to an LFO. That's awesome.
It sounded like it was patched to an LFO, so I was like, okay, cool, but, like kind of hard to listen to.
This belt has perished, yeah.
Right, yeah. So... definitely need to look into that. Yeah, I guess I could do it. Like bring that whole thing outside now because it's sort of portable, but I don't know.
More portable than Cosmo.
It's pretty much the same portable as Cosmo, except for I need fewer boxes. Just the one box versus like 3. Also, I think Eurorack hopefully will eliminate my need for Mondo here at future performances in person.
Wait. What do you mean eliminate your need for Mondo? You're going to get rid of the middle console?
Well, Mondo is my name for this big, huge case that has a face on it. The face is down right now because I didn't want to scratch it up. But inside it was essentially a bunch of like foam, closed cell foam that I'd cut out and had places for like the pyramid and this micro freak and the mixer and like a few other things here and there, which was essential to like get there. But at this point, I think because there's a performance mixer there, I could probably bring like the Eurorack case, Cosmo case or 2, and the Hapax and be golden. Also, the MS-10 filter freed me up as well. I don't need to bring the MS-10 outside of the house anymore if I don't want to. Because it just has the nicest sound. The nicest. Anyway, love that synth. Hard pressed to find a synth I love more than the MS-10, and I've listened to a lot. It's because it's stupid. There's not a lot of controls on it. Like, anyway. We'll talk about the MS-10 later. I gotta go because I gotta do some homework. No joke. I gotta make a presentation tomorrow on poison, bug bites, and snake bites, and that kind of stuff for a wilderness first responder thingy.
Oh, cool.
Well, good luck with the hack.
Yeah.
Thank you for hosting tonight. It was
Yeah,
fun to do the
and
show.
Egon Benjamin, it was great to meet you, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
Do you
hanging out with
think-
you, Robbie.
Be thinking
See you
about that
every
day.
master class.
All right, I'm gonna play us out, but like,
Play us out, and we'll
Yeah.
live
Wait,
comment
you're,
over it.
You're gonna stand
Thanks,
there
everybody.
and pantomime, and we'll play you out.
yeah, this took too long to hit play before. Let me get going before things get. Oops, that wasn't even the right button. Hope I didn't.
Oh, here we go. I like those drums. Oh, yeah. Listen to that bass.